All right, so Jimmy Kimmel made his triumphant return, and not gonna lie, man, he dropped a banger of a monologue here. So he's defiant is point number one, but point number two, he's also kind of emotional, right? And he also tries to, deflect the worst smears that are coming from the right about what he said. So let's watch this and we'll break it down as we go.
Breaking news on Jimmy Kimmel and autism.
Jimmy Kimmel coming back to late night television.
ABC chose to bring back their low rating nighttime host.
We are in for a monologue that will be a marker in late night show history.
It's going to be a moment.
Yeah, no question, a huge moment in American history.
It's one of the most pivotal moments in broadcast history.
He will be delivering what is being dubbed the most anticipated monologue in late night in years.
Maybe we should change? Yeah.
From Hollywood, it's Jimmy Kimmel Live.
I don't know. You think MAGA fucked up? You think Trump overreached? You think the FCC shot themselves in the dick? Because this might be his biggest video ever. It's already at 13,500,000 views. And it's probably even more than that.
Thank you. Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted, if you're just joining us, we are preempting your regularly scheduled encore episode of Celebrity Family Feud to bring you this special report. I'm happy to be here tonight with you. I'm not sure who had a weirder 48 hours, me or the CEO of Tylenol. It's been overwhelming. I've heard from a lot of people over the last 6 days. I've heard from all the people in the world over the last 6 days. Everyone I have ever met has reached out 10 or 11 times. Weird characters from my past are the guy who fired me from my first radio job in Seattle, where we are not airing tonight, by the way. Sorry, Seattle. His name is Larry. In 1989, Larry tried to force me to do a bit called Jokes for Donuts, where people would call in with a joke and I would give them donuts. I refused to do it, and then I made a lot of fun of Larry for suggesting it, and eventually Larry fired me, and I had to move back in with my parents. But even he went in to cheer me up. Thank you, Larry, and I want to thank everyone who checked in. It would take all week to list all of them, but some that I do especially want to mention are my fellow late night talk show hosts, my friend Stephen Colbert, who's found himself in this predicament. My friends Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Arsenio, Kathy, Wanda, Chelsea, even Jay reached out. I heard from late night hosts in other countries, from Ireland and from Germany. The guy in Germany offered me a job. Can you imagine? This country has become so authoritarian, the Germans are like, come here. My boyhood idols, Howard Stern and David Letterman, were very considerate and kind, and I feel honored to be part of a group of people that knows what goes into doing a show like this. And I also want to thank all of you. Who supported our show, cared enough to do something about it, to make your voices heard so that mine could be heard. I will never forget it. And maybe most of all,
it was overwhelming, bro. It was overwhelming. They had the Disney stock went down 7%. They were hemorrhaging Disney Plus subscribers. People were dropping the page crashed. The page that allows you to like cancel your Disney Plus, it crashed because of them firing Kimmel. So it went from, they thought they were making a financial decision when they caved to the FCC and caved to Trump and fired Kimmel, and they thought they'd largely get away with it unscathed. But the backlash was so thorough and so overwhelming. You had 400 artists who work with Disney and ABC going, I'm never going to fucking work with you again if you don't bring him back. And so it went from, the financial calculation was we got to get rid of him. Then the financial calculation became, if we don't bring him back, we are cooked. And so they brought him back. So it was huge. It was such a huge backlash that it actually, like, the people's voice mattered.
I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. People who I never would have imagined, like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying, we don't like what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's absolutely right.
You know what the funny thing is, though? I don't even think that's true. I think the Democrats are such fucking pussies that even with like the full, politicization, politicization is how you actually say it, but it's just impossible to say. Anyway, with that happening at the FCC, I don't think that if the Democrats were to take control, they would respond in kind. I really don't think they would. They don't have the balls to do such a thing. So I don't even like the argument of like, well, what if the shoe's on the other foot? It's like, Democrats are not like Republicans. And so it wouldn't be like that. I'm sorry, it just wouldn't. The idea of Joe Biden deciding, hey, there's Greg Gutfeld pisses me off so much, so I'm going to force the FCC to make Fox fire him or else. Like, that, it just wouldn't happen. Now, I wouldn't want it to happen, but it definitely wouldn't happen. So this idea of like, well, if we do it to them, they'll do it to us. Democrats have been getting fucking spit on and slapped in their face and fucking disrespected nonstop in this country. And they've always done the when they go low, we go high bullshit. So it's not even true what Ted Cruz is saying here. Just as a matter of principle, you should just be like, well, we said we supported free speech, so I mean it. Let's actually support free speech, even though I don't like the speech. That's the point.
If Ted Cruz can't speak freely, then he can't cast spells on the Smurfs. Even though I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects, some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it. And thanks. For telling their followers that our government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think
No, it was fake. It was fake outrage, Jimmy. It was fake. It was fake. First of all, originally they were saying you're making fun of Charlie Kirk, which, as you pointed out, you weren't making fun of Charlie Kirk. Then they said, oh, you're lying and saying that the person who did the killing was MAGA, which, first of all, a lot of people genuinely and sincerely believe whoever did the killing was MAGA. That's point number one. Point number two is, that's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said something totally different. He said, like, well, MAGA is rushing to try to blame the other side and to try to make sure everybody thinks this person wasn't MAGA. He said something to that effect, which is different from saying, I am declaring he is MAGA. So it was fake. It was fake outrage. It was all completely and utterly made up. And they just wanted they wanted a scalp. They wanted a scalp to be able to say, look, we got one of the fucking liberals or one of the leftists and they're horrible. And now, aha, we've turned the tables on cancel culture and you guys did it to us, so now we're going to do it to you. Meanwhile, what is the worst cancel culture that the left actually ever did to the right? As I pointed out, it's like trying to deplatform Ann Coulter from a college speech or Ben Shapiro from a college speech, which has nothing to do with the government literally getting involved and trying to get people fired for their speech, which is what all these fucking jackals were supporting. And so he's taking them at face value and like they're sincere. Jimmy, they're not sincere. In fact, their reaction to this monologue was further evidence that it's not sincere. They were like, aha, this was not enough, sir. It's like he was literally fucking on the verge of bursting out into tears and crying when talking about Charlie Kirk and saying I wasn't making fun of him. But somehow that's not enough? Jesus Christ.
Did point a finger. I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers, because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who tell me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until I pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous. I want you to think about this. Should the government be allowed to regulate which podcasts the cell phone companies and Wi-Fi providers are allowed to let you download to make sure they serve the public interest? Do you think that sounds crazy? No. 10 years ago, this sounded crazy. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. In addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing Carr Republicans have embraced since this one. And that's saying something. The FCC has a tradition of meddling where they shouldn't under many administrations, but it wasn't always like this. There was an FCC commissioner back in 2022 who worked under Joe Biden who was spot on. He wrote, President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship. You know who wrote that? FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr, who later was appointed chairman of the FCC by this former crusader for free speech.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down.
That was also in 2022. And I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
Well, a lot of people, anybody could replace him. The guy had no talent. Kimmel he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent. And more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no ratings.
Well, I do tonight. You almost have to feel sorry for him. He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show.
Bro, I forgot where I saw this, but somebody said like the rough average views per video that Kimmel puts out is like 250,000. And like I said, this video's got 13.6 million right now. So this backfired bad. Really, really bad.
Backfired bigly. He might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now. A lot of people have been asking me if there are conditions for my return to the air, and there is one. Disney has asked me to read the following statement, and I've agreed to do it. Here we go. To reactivate your Disney Plus and Hulu account. Open the Disney Plus app on your smart TV or TV-connected device. I've been, fortunate to work at a company that has allowed me to do the show the way we want to do it for almost 23 years. I've done almost 4,000 shows on ABC. And over that time, the people who run this network have allowed me to evolve and to stretch the boundaries of what was once traditional for a late night talk show, even when it made them uncomfortable, which I do a lot. Every night, they've defended my right to poke fun at our leaders and to advocate for subjects that I think are important by allowing me to use their platform, and I am very grateful for that. With that said, I was not happy when they pulled me off the air on Wednesday. I did not agree with that decision, and I told them that, and we had many conversations. I shared my point of view, they shared theirs, we talked it through, and at the end, even though they didn't have to, they really didn't have to, this is a giant company, we have short attention spans, and I am a tiny part of the Disney Corporation. They welcomed me back on the air, and I thank them for that. That unfortunately, and I think unjustly, this puts them at risk. The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week. We have to speak out against it. He's not stopping. And it's not just comedy. He's gunning for our journalists, too. He's suing them. He's bullying them. Over the weekend, his foxy friend Pete Hegseth announced a new policy that requires journalists with Pentagon press credentials to sign a pledge promising not to report information that hasn't been explicitly authorized for release. That includes unclassified information. They want to pick and choose what the news is. I know that's not as interesting as muzzling a comedian, but it's so important to have a free press, and it is nuts that we aren't paying more attention to it. Walter Cronkite must be spinning in his grave right now. He's dead, right? Yeah. Look, I never imagined I would be in a situation like this. I barely paid attention in school. But one thing I did learn from Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and Howard Stern is that a government threat to silence a comedian the president doesn't like is anti-American. That's anti-American. And I'm so glad we have some solidarity on that from the right and the left and from those in the middle like Joe Rogan. Maybe the silver lining from this is we found one thing we can agree on, and maybe we'll even find another one. Maybe we can get a little bit closer together. We do agree on a lot of things. We agree on keeping our children safe from guns, on reproductive rights for women, Social Security, affordable health care, pediatric cancer research. These are all things that
all things that Trump has absolutely obliterated.
Americans support. Let's stop letting these politicians tell us what they want and tell them what we want. We are our leaders. There was a moment over the weekend, a very beautiful moment. I don't know if you saw this. On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus, as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that, and not this. So thank you for listening, and I'll have more to say when we come back.
What about also those who say that you're being, in recent months, awfully thin-skinned?
I've always been thin-skinned. I've been thin-skinned from day one.
Oh, man, that was great. That was great. Came out the gates hot, man. He was throwing haymakers in every direction. The only difference I would make in that monologue is also adding Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Ozturk, all the pro-Palestine voices, anti-genocide voices that have basically had their lives destroyed because they dared to protest against Israel. That's another just massive, massive assault on the First Amendment and the Constitution that's been happening, and that deserves a lot of attention as well. But yeah, this backfired for the right. This backfired, and I got to give credit to Crystal. She called it. She said pretty early on, like, they are so overreaching. They have no idea how much they're overreaching with this, like, you're not even allowed to disagree with Charlie Kirk now type shit. And this is just a great example. You got this late night comedian fired, and you basically just made him like twice as popular as he was before, and made more people pay attention, and made more people like him. So, well done. But now I guarantee you there's going to be retribution. There's going to be vengeance against ABC, and they're going to try to block the merger, and they're going to, Lord only knows what kind of hell they're going to raise behind the scenes. But just so you know, there's some of the affiliate networks, the local affiliates, were still refusing to run Jimmy Kimmel. So anyone that was Sinclair and anyone that's Nexstar, they were refusing to run Jimmy Kimmel's show, and ABC is now threatening them and saying, well, we're not going to give you the sports that you guys want. So we'll withhold sports that runs on ABC if you withhold Jimmy Kimmel. So they're strong-arming now the local affiliates. And we'll see what happens. I don't know if they're going to cave or not, but it's like a network war that we're witnessing. And so, but huge, amazing return. And this was a huge, huge L for MAGA. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.